From the Figure 4 Online Studios in beautiful Bothell, Washington, exclusively at WrestlingObserver.com, you're listening to The Bryan and Vinny Show with your hosts, Bryan Alvarez and Big Vinny V.
This ain't the first time or the last time you get hit when a Sukarai comes at you with a bag of beats and lyrics. Don't trip, don't fall, don't stall like Dr. Death versus Bar Gun 98 Brawl for all. You should sit by the phone and wait for my call, cause I ain't never gonna dial. I don't wanna know you at all. Remember the days when they all said I was too small? Well, cheers to 20 years and 2 middle fingers for y'all. Y'all said I wouldn't make it, but I'm out here doing greatness. Now you acting and faking it, being all nice and shit, but I rise above the hate. David Blaine levitate, cause I know, you know, they know I'm great. Calling out the
Hey everybody, it's Rocky Romero right there. Antidote.
I know you're sick, and I got you fucking in.
Who's that guy?
I know you're sick, and I got you.
That's a deep-voiced fella. Hey, Sneaky Style out now. Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, Google Play, Bandcamp, Tidal. And no, Ken, I don't know what Tidal is.
I was going to say, I've heard of some of those.
All right. Well, hey, you can get it everywhere.
That's the important thing.
That's the important thing. You could get it on the moon.
Probably.
But check it out right now, everybody. Rocky Romero, Sneaky Style.
Oh, now you want to take a picture with me.
Huh? All right, we got a lot to get into here today. It is the Thursday edition of the show. That means we've got AEW and NXT. 2 more good shows.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good shows every week.
And as I was watching the shows, I thought I knew who I was going to vote for this week. But then, at the end of the night, I just didn't know. And so I guess I'll review the shows, and I'll decide as we get going here.
Hard to argue with that. All right, we begin, as we always do, with NXT, WWE NXT, October 30th of the year 2019. Poppy does a weird-ass song to open the show. Never heard of Poppy before they tweeted out her stuff the day before. The song was like ELO mixed with Motley Crue, mixed with Rage Against the Machine. It was very odd.
Well, let's talk about the important thing here.
All right.
Io Shirai had a live performance.
Yes.
And she danced to the ring. She's headbanging.
Yeah.
She's playing to the crowd. They're just going crazy for her. Like she's the biggest baby face on the roster. And then she gets in the ring, and the match starts, and the fans are chanting her name. And then she immediately does this huge dive, and they go nuts, and they chant her name. Now, I posted on Twitter, did I miss the Io Shirai babyface turn? And of course, all the hardcore WWE fans are all mad. You didn't miss it, she's still a heel. Are you kidding me? They're getting all angry and everything like that. And yes, I realize that she is on paper a heel, and that she did a couple of heelish things later in the show. But I was just flabbergasted watching this. Didn't she just turn heel?
Like a month or two ago.
What's the point of turning heel?
That is a bigger question, yes.
You know what I'm saying?
They wrestle the same.
Why is she out here like
They're still selling merch?
A live band and a performance and the dancing and the whole 9 yards? I'm like, this is why we get this stupid stuff with Finn Balor going on some dumb podcast and blaming the fans for him getting booed. Like, I mean, it was partially the fans' fault on this show. I mean, there were people they weren't going to boo. But, dude, what did Io Shirai do on the show that you should boo?
Nothing. She was a great warrior.
Like, I guess,
and an exciting personality.
Later, she came out and kicked somebody. I don't even remember now. I mean, that's how low on the priority list it is. All I remember is her entrance and her wrestling. It's like she was the biggest babyface on the roster. I don't get this company. I'm baffled.
So the match, we should clarify, was Io Shirai versus Candice LeRae. And if you ignore the fact that it was impossible to tell who you're supposed to cheer for, it was a very good match.
It was a great match.
Now, I do have some problems with the way it was put together. It's the classic WWE move of, let's get the heat, then we go to commercial, and we come back, the comeback has already started.
Yeah.
I felt like I missed the match.
You did miss the match. That's what they do. You don't know what's going on. You miss the ebbs and flows.
So they had a very bad brawl at the end. I don't know if Io actually got knocked out or what, but she appeared to be frozen in the ring at one point. And then I don't even know how, but a chair ended up in the ring. I guess this is no DQ. And Candice did a moonsault, missed, landed on the chair, and got pinned.
Well, what happened was Io tried to submit her, and it didn't work. So Io went outside and grabbed a chair. But there were DQs, and so when she tried to use the chair, the referee snatched it away from her, and it fell on the mat. Then Candice tried her moonsault, and she landed on the chair, which I guess is not a DQ.
It's just Candice's dumb fault for landing on a chair that was not supposed to be there in the first place.
Yes.
That's fucking dumb.
That's what happened.
I was so much happier not knowing what had happened.
Well, I hate to tell you.
Ignorance was so blissful, Brian.
Well.
And you and your cursed knowledge.
Well, I'm telling you what happened because that's our job.
Well, anyway, I did like this match. I like it less now.
And then the fans popped huge when Io won.
That also
I
happened.
wonder why.
That also
You
happened.
booked the babyface like an idiot.
Yeah.
They clapped, they danced, and that was it.
So Io goes to attack her more after the match, but Rhea Ripley saves.
I guess that was a heel move, but I mean, they cheered her.
Everyone attacks everyone. Yeah. It's very hard to tell. A recap of Finn Balor's turn last week and the reaction to it, the fallout, if you will, on various media sources, TMZ and whatnot. And somewhere in here, Finn had the line that the Prince is back. A recap of Damian Priest beating Pete Dunne with a low blow. Rematch for that is next week. So Finn comes out for his promo.
Now, to his credit, he tried to cut a heel promo. He tried very hard. And if this were my company, he would not have that song. Too much of a babyface song.
It's too awesome.
They got to get rid of that song. But they decided they're going to keep the song because they like the song. But what they're going to do is they're going to turn off the lights in the crowd because everybody loves to stand up and put their arms out.
He's still doing the pose.
Yes, but they're going to prevent the fans from being able to do the pose by turning the lights out.
Ah.
That was their idea. Then he comes out and he tries to do this heel promo, and the fans cheer for him like he's the biggest babyface on the roster. They chant, "Thank you, Finn," and later they boo when he mentions Johnny Gargano. This was not Finn's fault. He tried, unlike in the Io Shirai match.
So he's doing the Bullet Club gun signs. Says 2 months ago he was laying down. That's the exact words he used.
I didn't like that.
For the hottest guy in wrestling because he got a new mask. And now he's taken his mask off and he's the hottest guy in wrestling.
You know what I love about that? I had people so angry at me when I questioned why Seth Rollins was scared because Bray Wyatt put a scary mask on. And I had to hear about this forever. Brian, you can't look at it like that. It's on and on and on. Finn Balor comes out here and his big heel line is, I had to lay down because this guy put on a new mask. I loved it.
Yeah.
Didn't work. The fans were mad at me, but not him.
Well, they cheered him because they say he's right, you see. So he says everyone's got opinions, including Twitter tough guys. There's too many fans in the locker room who should be in the stands, he says. I don't watch this business watches me. He threatened to send Johnny Gargano back to hospital and turn Johnny Wrestling into Johnny Watches Wrestling, like he should be. And that was it. So if there was a reason here where he explained why he turned, I missed it. I guess to be the hottest guy in the business again.
Yeah, he just doesn't like the fans.
That's a shitty reason.
Or the wrestlers.
Yeah.
I was going to say, he's bringing up these references that only older fans would understand.
The Prince.
No, like, the fans, the
fan.
wrestlers should be in the stands. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then I realized that only old people are watching this show. So
That is actually a great point.
I guess it worked.
Kabuki Warriors hype video. This was unbelievably great. They both looked awesome. They both looked like giant stars. They should have shown this video on a loop for 2 hours. I cannot look away for 1 single second. It was awesome. Then a Tyler Bate video package, and I wrote, he's facing Cameron Grimes next week, which clearly means this package was not very effective because he faced him later in the show.
Yeah, I've had many times watching this show. I watch a video package, I presume it's for later, and then it happens.
Yeah. Shane Thorne versus Bronson Reed.
Okay, am I wrong? I loved this.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
No.
Dave, last night, I think it's one of the things that he does that drives people crazy when he compares somebody to their work elsewhere, which, I mean, it is fair. I mean, if Bronson Reed tears it up in PWG, and he has to work WWE style here. That's a fair comparison.
Sure.
But he was telling me that Bronson Reed looked bad in this match and did a lot of sloppy stuff. Did you see that?
I must have missed this sloppy stuff.
I didn't see this.
Perhaps I could watch it again.
Dude, I'd watch it 50 times.
What I saw was essentially a low card G1 match here on NXT. They start with a sprint of big moves and charges and dives. They stood face to face in the middle of the ring, had a chop fest. I think Morrow actually called it that. They traded elbows. There was a Saito suplex, a throwing German suplex. A guy got dropped on his head. It was not the finish. And finally, and I say finally, this was like 3 minutes of awesomeness. Thorne goes for a top rope Rana, but Reed just pushes him down, and Thorne goes splat, and Bronson Reed pinned him with the fattest splash ever.
This was I think, in the history of pro wrestling. And granted, I didn't grow up watching Jimmy Snuka come off the top of the cage. This may have been my favorite big splash of all time.
Like, we have been watching Kamala squashes. And Kamala, maybe not in those modes we've seen, Kamala has done the top rope splash before.
Not like this.
He probably outweighs Bronson Reed,
I don't think so.
but he's not fatter.
Bronson Reed he jumped so high, and it looked mildly out of control. That made it better.
Of course.
I don't want a guy in control squishing another guy. I want him doing a giant belly flop and killing the dude, which he did.
Which he did. You got what you wanted then.
Dude, I love this with every ounce of my being. I could watch it 1,000 times.
This was fantastic.
I do have 2 complaints.
Okay.
And it pains me to have to complain about this match, but the first complaint is he did the deal where you lift the guy up like you're going to give him an Alabama slam, but then you sit down and drop them on their head.
Yes.
Okay. Shane Thorne should never wrestle again after this pile driver. It was like the most devastating looking pile driver that I've ever seen that didn't actually kill somebody. Like, I have no idea how he lived. He kicked out. I realized that wasn't the finish, but I was so angry when he kicked out of that move. It's like, if something looks that good and you're only going another 30 seconds, just like go home. You know what I'm saying? But then I got even more angry because they showed a replay. And I was all excited to see the replay because I jumped 10 feet in the air when I saw it the first time. These idiots showed a replay from a different angle where it was abundantly clear that his head came nowhere close to the mat. And I was just like, why did you do that? I realize you have 9 cameras. You don't have to show me another angle if the other angle is worse. They've done this 2 times in the last month. There was another show where there was a move that just looked like it was so awesome and devastating. And then they showed another angle and it was totally fake. And this is so unlike WWE to do something this stupid. I was so mad, but then I got right back into it because Bronson Reed was just massacring this man.
Yes.
But those 2 things did upset me about this match.
See, I can go back and check. Well, I saw that when I saw the pile driver move live, it did. I saw it the way you saw it in the second replay. It never looked like a devastating finish to me.
You need to go back and watch it
I'll
again,
go back
dude.
and check. So
It's like his head went through the canvas.
see, I think it was off to the side.
It was. You saw that in the second angle.
I see.
You couldn't see it at all because Bronson Reed is this wide.
Got it.
And like you can't see anything behind him.
He is in fact that wide.
Yes.
That's a fact. Kathy interviews Tegan Knox and Dakota Kai, and they say they worked hard to come back from knee injuries. They are ready for the Kabuki Warriors, and they can't think of any better way to win than with their best friend.
How sweet.
Yeah. Had a Mia Yim hype video. She's coming back
You
soon.
could pour that on a waffle.
I can't believe you remembered that line.
I'll never forget it.
I'm trying to forget it. I'm doing my best.
I've been trying to find a reason to use it with my wife.
I'll have you now.
Hasn't worked out.
Keep me posted on
Got a lot of things going on.
Yeah. Dakota Kai and Tegan Knox versus the Kabuki Warriors. I'm going to tell you what happened first,
Okay.
and then I will tell you how long it took to do this.
Oh, so we both timed it.
So they got the heat on Dakota Kai when Asuka did a dragon screw leg whip in the ropes. They put her in 700,000 holds, and then she finally made the tag to Tegan Nox.
Yes.
And yes, I did go back in time this because I could not believe how long this match went. Now keep in mind, I actually do watch this on the DVR, so I still have the commercials on there, even though it's in the picture-in-picture. I can still skip the commercials. I went back and timed this, so in real time, but from the dragon screw to the hot tag, I timed it at 14 minutes.
Yes.
And 13 seconds.
That's exactly how long it was.
Holy Christ!
They got the heat on Dakota Kai for 14 minutes.
Her actual rehab could not have been this long.
Now, the match itself, like, the Kabuki Warriors are the best tag team in WWE.
Well, we're going to have the same conversation we had about Io, but yes.
They're phenomenal. So, with that said, it still should not have been 14 minutes of heat.
Well, here's the other problem.
It was too long.
Because, like Io, they're supposed to be heels, but the crowd loves them. This crowd, they tried. I won't say they didn't care about the hot tag. But for this 14 plus minutes of heat, they were fine watching the Kabuki Warriors on offense. This is not like when Tully and Arn are tearing Ricky Morton's leg off.
No.
And they're begging Gibson to get the hot tag. This is 14 minutes of, hooray!
You're
Hey,
still breaking her leg off.
you've got a hold. We like that hold.
The other problem was Dakota Kai is coming off a leg injury and surgery. She gets in there, and they're putting her in heel hooks and stretch mufflers and every leg hold there is. And it's like, for 14 minutes, she can still stand up and make a tag?
Not like she should make a tag, Brian. I didn't write it down. I believe it timed at 90 seconds, and she was back in there for a four-way.
Yes.
And Nigel actually said that little bit of respite on the outside certainly helped.
Well,
That was a quote.
you know it did.
Now, so here's the other great part. I'm actually going to go over this a lot, but so the whole match as a whole went close to 20 minutes, and the Kabuki Warriors won like 17 of those minutes, and then Asuka blew mist in Dakota's face. They went through absurd lengths for the ref not to see this until he had counted the pin, but then they got the pin. So they beat him, and 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 then they won.
And not only did they win, but when they misted her, the place came completely unglued.
Yes.
It was the biggest pop of the night. I think it was a bigger pop than when Finn Balor came out. Giant babyface reaction.
Yes.
And then, yes, 9 minutes shorter, this would have been extremely good.
So much better. So the other thing, and this is always a classic WWE thing, where they decide there must be a camera cut on every single strike, which is always annoying in every single possible context. But there is a point early in the match where the four women are brawling on the floor, and there is a punch, and there's a camera cut. And there is a kick, and there's a camera cut. And there is an elbow, and there's a camera cut. And somewhere in here, now I'm not certain, because there were so many camera cuts, I may have made a mistake, but I am almost positive that Kairi Sane spanked somebody. And for the spank, there was a camera cut.
Well,
Like, you can show that strike. If you can't lay that strike in, fire them all. So that drove me nuts. The heat drove me nuts. The fact that essentially, I mean, even before anything started, the crowd was chanting, Asuka's going to kill you. So we have ineffective baby faces. We have heels who are too awesome to be booed. We have a match that goes forever. And then they cheat to win, but everyone's happy they cheated to win. I was very tired when this was done.
it's too long.
Way too long.
Then they had the big brawl.
Oh, yeah, there's more afterwards. Jesus.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Shayna, Jessamine, and Marina come down to the ring. They attack Tegan and Dakota. Shayna goes to break Tegan's arm. Rhea Ripley starts walking down to the ring. She gets jumped by Io. Bianca Belair runs down. She attacks Rhea. Candice comes out. She attacks Io. Everybody's brawling. Shayna and Rio, last two standing. Rhea double legs her.
God.
Everybody hits the ring. They break it up and brawl. Send the refs out. Refs break it up. Then Regal rules War Games. That's what happened. Now, the fans wanted Regal to announce the War Games. They're chanting for War Games. He came out. He gave them what they wanted. The segment, at the end of the day, was effective. But Don't you think that these women should all be brawling on TV and have to get broken up for like 3 weeks and then you announce War Games? It's like they had one brawl and then Regal's like, well, we should do War Games.
Yeah.
That seemed a little rushed.
And the crowd's chanting War Games before it came out, and that's the name of the next show. And this felt very much like we have a show coming up called War Games. We need to hotshot an angle to get a big giant brawl with teams to set this up. Now, on top of all that, I don't know what the teams are. It is announced later that Shayna and Rhea will be the opposing captains. But when this whole mess finally settled down and refs were keeping them separated, we had a 5-on-4 stare down. So I guess the captain's going to pick teams at some point, like kickball. And we'll see where it goes from there. Tyler Bate versus Cameron Grimes. I shall begin with the negatives. And by the negatives, I mean Beth Phoenix. She says, quote, Grimes has been off to a great start. But you gotta ask yourself, is his precision, is it exactness, or is it just luck? I didn't look it up, but I'm almost positive exactness is not actually a word. And
you know, somebody on the board the other day was upset at us because we bring up these things that Beth says, but they never bury Morrow.
There's a reason for this.
There's a very simple reason for this.
Morrow doesn't bother me.
Well, Morrow bothers some people.
Fine.
And some people he doesn't bother.
Yeah.
But the key is, that's Morrow. It doesn't matter if Morrow's calling boxing or wrestling or he's saying grace at the family Christmas dinner. That's what you're going to get. I don't believe for 1 second that Beth Phoenix talks like this. That's the problem.
That is a problem.
She doesn't add anything to the broadcast.
No human being talks like this.
These ridiculous WWE goofy things. If you don't like Morrow, great. Sometimes Morrow is unbelievable at his job. Sometimes Morrow does step over the edge a little bit. But you know what? I feel like he's real, and all I want is to feel like I'm listening to real people. I don't feel like that with Beth Phoenix, or 95% of the people that are doing commentary for WWE.
To take this another step, maybe you don't like it when Morrow, for example, says, Mamma Mia. Maybe you or I don't like it when he says Mamma Mia. But you know what? The crowd loves it because when they see a big move, they chant Mamma Mia. They think it's cool, so it's working. Later, Beth says, as she's talking about how Tyler Bate has gotten into meditation, she explains to you, the viewer at home, meditation prescribes itself to a vegan lifestyle. That sentence makes no sense.
I was just astonished that he's a vegan now.
I'm not even sure he is. I think she just pulled a bunch of relatively large words out of a hat and threw them together, not knowing what they meant or what her point would be. Now, that's the biggest negative is Beth. The other negative, they had a crap finish where Killian Dane distracted Bate and Grimes hit his move and pinned him. Everything in between was so awesome in this match.
These two men are excellent professional wrestlers.
My God, they're good. Grimes, by the way, he's not a big person at all, but you put him there with Tyler Bate and suddenly he legit looks like Bruiser Brody.
He's huge.
So this was a thinking man's match. They did subtle stuff. They did a spot. It's one of those duck the clothesline, duck the knee, whatever. Duck about 5 things and I'll drop kick you. And Grimes is running the ropes and he's running back and forth. And he's running, and he has ducked all these moves. And there's no reason to think one more move should be effective, except on the very last one, he stumbles. He starts windmilling out of control, so he's not in control when he comes off the ropes and Bate drop kicks him in the face. That was so awesome. Just that little stumble to add some realism to this. Somebody finally countered Tyler Bates' goofy bip and bop spot, whatever he calls it, where he throws one fist in the air and then punches the other.
That spot's awesome.
It is, but it's goofy. It's also predictable. Someone finally, when he threw up with a distraction, someone punched him right in the face. But then a minute later, he shrugged it off and he finally hit his big punch too. So it all worked out. I'm loving this match. And then the Bate hits a big giant dive. But he sees Killian Dane like in the crowd. Not even
He's just out there.
On the ramp or at ringside, there's a barrier between them. I don't know why he was so distracted. But he is distracted for a few seconds, and this gives Grimes time to recover. And when Bate gets in the ring, Grimes hits the running foot stomp, which they're calling the cave-in, because he caved in his chest. And he's
a Carolina caveman.
And he's a caveman from the Carolinas. So it was a very lame finish. And
you know what's so lame about the finish? We can't have Cameron Grimes just beat Tyler Bate. You have to have a distraction. Like, obviously, they wanted Killian Dane to beat up Tyler because Tyler is friends with Pete Dunne, and Killian Dane is mad at Pete Dunne for breaking his fingers. I got all that, okay? But you know it's okay to actually let Cameron Grimes get a win over somebody, like with a name, and then Killian Dane can get in the ring and beat up Tyler Bate afterwards and be angry at his friend Pete Dunne for breaking his fingers.
Sure.
All this did was, as a WWE fan, it just made you think, God, another lame finish. Another dumb babyface. Why was he distracted by a guy on the other side of the barricade or whatever? We don't need that. It's better if he has a great match and loses to the better man than that he comes across like an idiot and loses. And I don't get this Killian Dane thing. I got nothing against the guy, but you know what he is now? He's like a forgotten son, where we have never been given any reason to care about him, yet he's being pushed hard every week like he's a guy that we're supposed to care about.
Yep. So I usually watch NXT first. I watched AEW first this week, and I love that show, as we shall get into. Now, I thought this was bell to bell, lame finish aside, at least as good as anything on AEW, but it felt like they were wrestling in a garage.
Yeah.
And then we harp on it every week, and it's going to be that way until they move. But it's a giant thing. In this war, they're going into battle not fully armed. There's a huge handicap they're dealing with in this building. They come off as a very minor league, and AEW comes off as the show. Had an Angel Garza hype video about being part of the Garza dynasty, wanting to live up to and surpass the legacy of his uncle Hector. This was excellent. Just short, to the point, simple, and made you care about why this guy's fighting. Great! Here was where they announced that Shayna and Rhea will be the team captains for the Women's War Games match. And then Keith Lee and Matt Riddle versus Undisputed Era in the main event. They had your basic TV main event tag match. Got a heat on, well, actually both guys took turns. They actually hit Chasing the Dragon on Riddle, but Lee broke at the pin. And Lee's a monster. We had a monster in peril and a bro in peril. They both worked. And eventually Roderick Strong and Adam Cole hit the ring, but they got fought off. And it didn't matter because Undisputed Era hit Riddle with total elimination and pinned him. So they won essentially clean anyway.
It was totally clean.
Yeah.
There was zero distraction. There was zero anything. And I realized it earlier. I said, well, why couldn't Tyler Bate do a clean job for Cameron Grimes? So I'm sure people are going to hear this when I'm angry that they beat Matt Riddle and say, well, Brian, you just said blah, blah. It's totally different. Nobody should be beating Matt Riddle. Keith Lee could have done the job here.
He was on a losing streak not long ago.
Yes, he's been losing matches one after the other. What difference is one more going to make? Matt Riddle's a guy where every time I see him, I just watch him and I think, if this were any other company anywhere in the world, like he'd be champion by now. Or he'd be chasing the title in order to win it. Mm-hmm. Here he is, teaming with Keith Lee. They face Undisputed. It wasn't even like they won to set up a title match.
Yeah, this is a nothing match.
It's like they had a match, and they just beat Matt Riddle clean in the middle. I was flabbergasted.
They had three perfectly good guys there to do the job, and they chose Riddle.
I don't know what's going on. I'm baffled.
So a beatdown ensued. Ciampa and his crutch came out to even the odds. Poor Kyle O'Reilly was left in the ring to take all the finishers. And then Ciampa was going to get a promo, but my show ended, so I never heard what he said.
Dude, mine did too. Everybody's did.
Right.
That was weird. Like I got YouTube TV, so usually it just goes until the show's over. Like I don't have to do anything. Mm-hmm. When SmackDown was on FS1, I didn't have to do anything. It just knows record SmackDown wherever it's at, and it records the whole thing. This was the first time ever that it cut off before the end. And then I went online and, like everybody else that recorded it, cut off before the end. So basically, he challenged them. There's going to be a War Games. 2 War Games on the next takeover.
Cool. I've lost faith in NXT's ability to do War Games well. I'm sure.
Hey, listen,
I'm sure it'll be a fine cage match.
I liked this show when I was watching it, but as I look back over it, I didn't like it as much as I thought.
There was one great segment, which was the Tyler Bate match, and even that was not great by the end.
This is too much. You know what this is? It's too much of a WWE show.
It was very much a WWE
And
show.
WWE is very uncool right now. Like,
I'll
it is.
say.
It's so uncool. Like, you look at those 18 to 49 numbers, AEW and NXT both got slaughtered by the World Series. The World Series did 21 million viewers. AEW was down to like 750, and NXT was like down to 585 or whatever. But as much as AEW dropped, they were number 6 in persons 18 to 49, and number 5 in males 18 to 49. The only things that beat them in males 18 to 49 were the NBA games, Sports Center, and South Park. NXT was number 32 in persons 18 to 49.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, like, it's just not cool right now. And there's 1,000 reasons why we talk about every day, but one of the things about NXT was it was always different from the main roster. And this show just felt like a WWE event. Got to do distraction. We got to do the stuff we do where nobody knows if someone's a babyface or a heel.
Wooden scripted promos.
Wooden promos.
A long one, but...
You know, there's a War Games coming, so we just got to rush some matches
Yes,
to
we have a
announce.
show called War Games, thus we must book War Games.
This was a WWE show. If you're a WWE fan, great. But if you're sick of WWE and you want an alternative, NXT used to be it, and it's not it right now.
No. AEW Dynamite, also October 30th, 2019. Tony Schiavone opens the show at the airport, where the Rhodes brothers arrive on their plane. They hug goodbye, Dustin and Cody do. Dustin goes one way, Cody goes the other. And Cody and Tony ride in a limousine together to the building to do the contract signing.
So I didn't think about this till just now, but why didn't Dustin get in the limo with Cody and Tony Schiavone?
It's never explained.
Because they did both end up at the building.
They left at point A, and they both arrived at point B, and there was plenty of room in this limo for, as big as Dustin Rhodes is, he would have fit.
That was kind of weird.
So that was not explained.
I get in there, and Tony makes sure to say, Cody, I'm so glad to be with you here tonight.
We get a clip from after the show last week, actually, of Pac going after Moxley after the time limit draw. Omega made the save, of all people. And then Hangman Page challenged Pac for Full Gear. And then Moxley goes backstage where he's called into Tony Khan's office. And we hear shouting, and there's subtitles. And Moxley gets the terrible news that his match against Omega at Full Gear is now going to be an unsanctioned match. So he's going to beat Kenny Omega, and it's not even going to count. And he's furious. What happens to Kenny Omega is on your hands, he says.
Okay, so I talked about this last night, and I know a lot of people don't agree with me, and that's fine. You don't have to agree with me. But I didn't like this, and I need to reiterate why. 2 weeks ago, we had a tag team match, and Jon Moxley was in there with Pac. Moxley, in the middle of the match, goes to get a chair, which would get him disqualified. He would lose. Pac takes the chair away from him. He says, "You don't want to lose this match by DQ." Moxley boots him, DDTs him, and walks out on him, okay? As a fan, when I watched that, my conclusion was, this guy is a crazy guy who doesn't care if he wins or loses. He just wants to get the job done. If he cared about wins and losses, why did he get a chair? Why did he boot his partner? And why did he walk out on his partner? Now, 2 weeks later, he's furious that if he beats Kenny Omega, it's not going to count on his record? Now, I'm sure that you can find different ways to explain why he's mad about one thing and not mad about the other. But as a fan, I don't understand this guy all of a sudden. Does he care or not? Later, he comes out and he cuts a promo, and he reiterates that he's furious that his win isn't going to count. But then he goes, you can take your wins and losses and shove them up your ass. So does he care or does he not care? I want to know what this guy's all about. Yes, Ken.
What is his character?
I don't know. I thought it was a guy that didn't care about wins and losses, and now I've been told something different on this show.
Well, he's a crazy guy.
That's your excuse?
Well, that's...
He just flip-flops with each passing moment?
Yeah.
I ain't buying that one.
Okay.
What about you, Vinny?
Well, Brian, I would tell you that Jon Moxley at no point cared about winning a tag team match with Pac. That was the farthest thing from his mind. But I think he really, really, really wants wins as a singles, and he really, really, really wants a win over Kenny Omega.
Okay, that's all fine, but are you telling me that if you were Jon Moxley, okay, if you beat Kenny Omega, you beat him, you're the winner, but on a piece of paper, it's not listed as a win? Like, you don't have the satisfaction of beating Kenny Omega?
He wants it on public record. He wants it undeniable.
I'm not sold on this storyline, all right? That's my opinion.
I have done my best. Sammy Guevara versus Hangman Page. So I don't think they planned it this way. I've mentioned before what an unbelievably great heel Sammy Guevara is. He has lost the Panda Head, which is actually a good thing because I don't want the Inner Circle to be a joke. But he's still the best ever.
Yes.
And he comes out and poses on the ramp and his music's playing. He's got his video going and it says, the best ever. And then down at the bottom of the screen, 0-2.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome.
He's the Spanish god as well.
I suppose so. So
I love this match.
is Hangman from West Virginia? West Virginia?
I presume so.
They were in West Virginia. He was over like a god. They had a very, very fun opening TV match. Paige took a back first fall on the apron for the heat. And then,
Aaron's Creek, Virginia.
I see, Virginia, just across the state line. So Paige comes back, and Guevara also falls in the apron. And they start going back and forth. And there was a point where they're doing some moves. In my head, I thought, this match has gone on long enough. They should end this. And the instant I thought that, Paige goes to the apron, flips over, hits the buckshot clothesline, and pins him. Perfect timing.
Hey.
Very good TV opener.
This was everything that I have been asking for a month now. Hangman Page came out. They put him in the ring with just the best heel. So it was not that match where he comes out and there's crickets and everybody else is the big star.
There's not dueling chance either.
They loved this guy.
Yes.
He went in there, he sold a little bit, he made a comeback, he pinned the guy, he grabs the mic as the fans are going crazy.
Yes.
And in fact, on TNT, you can say the word shit. And so he said, it's no secret that things have not been going so well for me lately. But man, tonight felt good. And there's going to be some real cowboy shit at this pay-per-view. Place goes crazy. They start chanting cowboy shit. And I was like, right there. Now this guy comes off as a star.
Yeah.
I know something about him. I try to watch this as a fan, okay? If I'm a fan watching the show the first 3 weeks, they tell me Hangman is a star, but he never says anything.
They do not show me.
He comes out there and like the crowd's dead, and I'm just like, I don't get it. Well, now as a fan, he came out and they loved him, and he won, and he cut a promo, and the people loved the promo, and it was edgy, and when it was over, I thought, now, there we go.
Yes.
Perfect.
The other key to this is he didn't talk for 20 minutes.
No, he
or
got
10
in and
minutes,
out.
Or 3. He probably talked for 1 minute. I've been losing. I won tonight. Things felt good. At the pay-per-view, you're going to see some real cowboy shit, and I'm going to take Pac's head off. Great. And he was done. Everyone went crazy. It was perfect.
Excellent.
Private Party had chains with the Rock and Roll Express backstage. That was great. We had Shanna, who is Portugal's perfect athlete, even though she was introduced as hailing from France, I believe, versus Hikaru Shida. So, no one cared about this early. This is the first match in the history of AEW Dynamite where at some point, nobody cared. And really, it was the first 2/3 of this, and nobody cared.
But they were polite.
They were polite. They were. Everyone was patient. Nobody panicked. They had a match. It was good. My favorite thing in this match, I can't believe I've never seen this before. Shannon's going to make her comeback, and she wants to get the crowd clapping along for her. But rather than just stand back and clap her hands, she grabs a face lock and claps Sheeta's back. And it worked, and the crowd started clapping along to the back slaps. The crowd did finally get into the near falls, and they did the kind of finish that I love. And I if it was real, you'd see this more often. Sheeta hit a big move. I forget what it was, but she got a near fall off a big move. And Shannon kicked out. So Sheeta said, okay, I'll do something else. Hit a Shining Wizard and won.
Yes.
Great.
This was not the deal where somebody hits a move and the other person just hits their move.
Or nobody kicks out and then makes a comeback. No. Shanna had this much gas in the tank left. She kicked out of move A. So Sheeta said, all right. And she did move B, a Shining Wizard, and pinned her. Great. I love this. This is a professional wrestling match. They worked the crowd, so the crowd was into it by the end. It was a good pacing, a very watchable show. I was in love with this so far.
So, I really liked this match. And there was also a women's match on the AW Dark show, a 4-way, which, to be fair, there were a couple of very contrived things. Like, they started with a 4-way lockup. That's ridiculous. But, I mean, that was like the worst offense. And then there was another women's match on NWA Power. And all of those matches, like, Hikaru Shida is awesome. But everybody in the AW Dark match, everybody in the NWA Power match, and Shanna here, like, there's women in WWE way better than all of them, okay? But I really liked all of those matches because in every single one of them, even though they weren't great, I felt like they were trying to have professional wrestling matches. That's all I want. When we went to that NXT house show and we saw, what the hell are their names?
Aaliyah
and Vanessa Bourne.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, you guys have been here forever. And not for one second did I think they were wrestling.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Not for one
Believe me,
second.
I do. I'm well aware.
They were doing a performance. It was like Halloween night, and they dressed up as wrestlers, and they did a performance. But they were not wrestling. I want to see wrestling. Even though these women aren't the best wrestlers, they're out there trying to wrestle. They're doing their best to wrestle. That's all I want. I like this match. It felt like a wrestling match, and quite frankly, the better wrestler won.
Great.
Perfect.
Perfect. That's all you asked
And
for.
the fans popped big for the finish, even though they didn't care early, because they respected the two women were having a wrestling match, and somebody won.
Okay, I did not understand this next segment.
Oh.
Jamie Hayter last week lost a match to Britt Baker. So at some point, I guess on AEW Dark, I don't know, Brandy Rhodes attacked Jamie Hayter.
No, this was just off TV, because the angle they showed at the beginning of the show from last week was after the show went off the air. So this was just something that happened last week, but we didn't see it.
Okay.
They're showing it to us now.
So Brandy Rhodes, in the things I have seen, has been Cody Rhodes' wife, and obviously a very powerful executive with the company. Why does she hate Jamie Hayter? Does she feel hated?
Vinny, for once, you're asking the wrong guy.
Then, now Brandy Rhodes is fucking Papa Shango.
Yes.
She does a voodoo spell
Yes.
and brings forth Awesome Kong into this world.
That's what I got out of this.
And then Awesome Kong cut the hair off dolls.
She summoned her via witchcraft.
Yes.
I have no idea what this is, and I hope I don't ever see it again.
I'm going over this now. Part of me wants to hope this thing aired on accident. Like they shot it as a rib and it accidentally put it on TV. Thumbs down to this part. Chris Van Vliet brings out tonight's special guests, the Rock and Roll Express,
Oh, this was great.
who are there to present the World Tag Team Championship belts to the winners of the match tonight.
Just overflowing with charisma.
West Virginia, their old stomping grounds. The crowd loves them. They love the crowd, having the time of their lives. Also, we didn't mention this, but did a cross promotion in the show with Rick and Morty. So appropriately, it's Ricky Morton.
Yeah.
Here on the show. So before anything can happen, Santana and Ortiz attack these legends. Just coming out of nowhere and sideswipe and just lay them out. They got loaded socks. Old school shit here. And they're destroying these guys. And eventually they take Ricky Morton over and powerbomb him through a gimmick part of the stage. Now, the only part of this I did not like was that the AEW has been very, very good about having people have friends. People have guys watching their back. Rock and Roll's got beat up here for a long time and then got powerbombed through the stage until finally the Young Bucks.
But the Bucks did run out.
Eventually they did.
Like, I can believe that the Bucks were back there putting their gear on. They had one boot on, one boot off. Like, at least somebody came out.
Eventually somebody came out. It could have been faster. That's all I'm saying.
Some people didn't like that the Rock and Rolls got beaten up because they're legends, but, I mean, come on. This show is 4 weeks old, and we need to establish to a new audience who everybody is. And so far, LAX, or whatever their name is, they're supposed to be the top heel tag team in the top heel group. They're getting cheered. They must do something diabolical to get booed. And that's what they did here. Like Jericho does not want his top heel group to be those goofy heels that everybody cheers. They're supposed to be bad guys. Thus, they've got to do some diabolical things here to get themselves booed. Great. I'm fine with that. And what better way to get heat than to beat up the Rock and Roll Express?
The greatest tag team of all time.
Because you know what? They could have a match with LAX.
They actually could.
Yes, they have had one. And
Even better.
I think they need to do it again.
I would have no problem with that. We cut to Cody Rhodes and Tony Schiavone in the car, and Tony tells a tale.
Oh, did he ever?
He flew to Tucson, Arizona to film some segment with the American Dream Dusty Rhodes and country music megastar Willie Nelson. And Willie came out to the pool first. And Tony said hi, and Tony went to get Dusty. So he went to the hotel room, where, of course, he found Dusty Rhodes buck naked. And Cody nodded and said, "That sounds like Dad." And Dusty made sure that Willie had already arrived. And then Dusty explained, "I'm going to make him wait because the star always comes out last." Therefore, Tony decreed, they should make Chris Jericho wait for their arrival. Now, two things. First of all, they should have ended there. Their point had been made. That's why Cody's not arriving to the show until halfway through. It goes on for a long time.
It went way too long.
Cody's anxious about performing in front of his mom. He wants to impress her. They're rambling about emotions and how they drive us. The second half of this is bullshit. Second of all, I get the point of the story because they needed to explain why they were arriving late to the building, what their plan was. But I'm thinking, this story you've told, this kind of makes Dusty Rhodes sound like an asshole. A selfish bastard. Why does he just go to the damn pool and shoot the video?
Because he's Dusty.
And maybe that's the answer.
Maybe that's the story. Hey, listen.
Lord knows I'm not Dusty. So
this went way too long, but I really did like it. I felt it was, both guys felt so real. Tony felt like Tony Schiavone.
Yeah.
And Cody felt like Cody. Now, for 1 second, did I think they'd memorized something early in the afternoon?
No.
Gone over this 50 times or any. It just felt real.
Yeah.
It went on too long, and Tony said, "Cody, just want to tell you again, I'm happy to be here with you tonight."
And I believe him. I completely believe Tony Schiavone when he says this. John Silver and Alex Reynolds and QT Marshall versus the Best Friends and Orange Cassidy. So if you're the kind of person who doesn't like the Best Friends and you don't like Orange Cassidy on a typical night, this was Rick and Morty night. So they came out dressed as cartoon characters with the wacky wigs and masks and eyebrows on and a lab coat. The crowd all has these Rick and Morty masks on. That was the scariest thing I've seen this entire Halloween season. That scared the hell out of me. So they start doing this match. It's the guys who are a comedy act anyway against a bunch of jobbers doing a cartoon show promotion. I liked Chuck Taylor in his lab coat and giant blue wig as Rick Sanchez. More than I like Chuck Taylor being Chuck Taylor. They tease the big hug spot. They get cut off. The fans are just outraged. Orange Cassidy runs wild. He's also in a lab coat. He's amazing. And eventually, they love Orange Cassidy, and the best friends eventually get their hug, and they pin John Silver with a strong zero, and that was that. This was great.
I was totally fine.
They had a show to promote. They had a wacky cross promotion to do. They picked the wackiest guys in the roster to do it. They didn't throw this in the tournament semifinals. It's not like SCU was out here in a wig wrestling for the titles. No. They took the wacky comedy act, put them against some jobbers so you knew who was going to win. They did their comedy, gave the fans what they want. Everyone was happy. This was a giant thumbs up.
All I know is that in order for them to succeed, they need to make stars. And to me, yes, they were wearing costumes. Yes, there was comedy. But as a viewer watching it, the fans are just going nuts for these people. They're going crazy for the best friends. They're going crazy for the hug. They're going crazy for Orange Cassidy. It's 3 minutes long. They got in, they got out. I liked it. I thought it was totally fine.
It is time for the contract signing. They're up on stage with a big long table. Chris Jericho looking more like a rock star than ever in his life.
When he came out of that pumpkin shirt,
purple pumpkin jacket,
I just died.
And the hair.
The hair's incredible.
It's flowing everywhere, free as could be. And Cody's at the other end of the table in his suit, looking very prim and proper.
Jericho's got his sunglasses on and his feet on the desk.
Yes. This was... It's funny because this is the opposite of like Austin McMahon, but this was the establishment who you want to cheer for and the rebel trying to screw everything up.
Jericho says, "This is the biggest match in AEW history, the biggest match in wrestling this year, and the biggest match in your entire career, Cody. If you win, you'll become what you've always wanted to be, the world champion. But if you lose, it might prove to you and all these entitled millennial jackasses here tonight that maybe you're not as good as you think you are. I'm going to sign this contract, and I'm going to teach you a lesson of what it's like to be a loser." I howled.
He's the best.
It's just...
He's the best.
It's such... It's, I've mentioned this 1,000 times. When everyone who wants to get into wrestling always wants to be a bad guy. Okay? This is why. You can wear a pumpkin outfit. Yeah. You can do a line. I'm going to teach you a lesson of what it's like to be a loser. You can pull all of this off as a heel. But, as Buddy told me, everybody wants to be a heel, but nobody knows how to do it. Jericho knows how to do it. You've got to be a great babyface before you can be a great heel. And he's the greatest. He's the greatest character in wrestling anywhere.
By far.
There's nobody close.
So, somewhere in here, the crowd was chanting that Jericho sucked because he's a heel. He informs them, "I don't suck. Schiavone sucks." Because
that was the point of my whole thing earlier. Mm-hmm. Every time Tony sat there and he said, "Cody, I'm just glad to be here with you tonight." Like the second time they did it, I thought I had it figured out. I was like, Jericho's going to kill Shivani. He is going to kill Shivani. He's going to put him in the line, something. He's going to do something to the guy tonight. Tony escaped unscathed.
Yes.
I was worked.
So, there's a key to all this. Because Jericho, a couple of times, he lurched at Cody and Cody jumped up. And Jericho mocked him for flinching, but really Jericho was testing Cody to see what he could get away with. And the answer was nothing. And he could take a little insult to Shivani. And yes, for those of you asking, he has been calling Tony Schiavone, Tony Schiavone for almost 20 years now. Actually, more than that. So he insults Cody. He teases fighting, but he's not going to because Cody's on guard. And then at the end, he explains, because Le Champion has grace and poise and class, he goes to shake Cody's hand and then says, "I'll see you at Full Gear." And he starts to walk away and Cody pulls him back. And before Cody can do anything, Jericho gets a little smirk and says, "We can stand here all night, but you might be needed elsewhere." Because Jericho had two plans. First plan was to see if he could catch Cody with his guard down and beat him up here. That didn't work, so plan B is Dustin. And up on the big screen, there's that hateable, slappable smirk of Sammy Guevara, who lets us know that Cody needs to see this. And they cut to Jake Hager beating up Dustin Rhodes in the parking lot. And the first thing he does is he takes Dustin over to the car, pins him against the car, and just knees him right in the balls. Now, I believe that in his Bellator fight this weekend, when Jake Hager was disqualified for kneeing his opponent in the balls,
Yes.
I believe he was trying to win, and the knees to the balls were unintentional.
Yes. But it happened.
But it happened, and therefore it's totally believable that this testicle-destroying madman would come out here just a few days later and attack this man's groin. And then, of course, because it's the Rhodes brothers, you got to get heat, they slam the car door on Dustin's hand. Perfect. Just perfect. And then because Dustin has friends, Cody's runs out there, MJF's out there, I think Heyman Page is out there, and Dustin, or Hager, and Sammy, and Jericho retreat, but not until Jericho lights a celebratory cigar. His plan worked. He is fucked with those damn roads.
I loved it.
This was a perfect angle.
Yes, it was so awesome.
Just great. And by the way, those of you who don't follow Dustin on Twitter, he got a cast, has a mild fracture in his hand.
Beautiful.
It's perfect. Perfect. TH2, which is the Hybrid 2, which is Jack Evans and Angelico, and Kip Sabian versus the Elite of Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks.
All right, so I just want to say something here because we talked about it last night. They played a video before Kenny's entrance, and there were references to New Japan. There were references to Kota Ibushi, and got everybody talking. Mm-hmm. And as of right now, Thursday night, there is nothing going on between AEW and New Japan. Nothing. So, just want to make that clear.
Yeah, they played a wacky video. It went over my head. I thought maybe it was Rick and Morty stuff. Apparently it's video game stuff. But you know what? As you mentioned earlier, Brian, this show is very popular with young people. And I am an old person. So I just said, hey, there's a wacky video playing. It's short. I don't get it. There's Kota Ibushi. Cool. And it's done. All right. So, yes, he came out dressed as a video game character, I understand.
Sans from Undertale.
I see. I didn't recognize...
with the Megalovania theme.
These
These people on Twitter were going crazy.
Well, as I mentioned, I am an old person, so I did recognize Ken and Ryu from Street Fighter when the Young Bucks came out.
Yes.
So they're doing this tag match. Do you know what match I have always needed to see and never knew I needed to see it until I saw a little bit of it?
Kenny Omega and Jack Evans?
Holy shit, Kenny Omega and Jack Evans.
Yes.
It's perfect. First of all, they're both great anyway, but they are a perfect fit with each other. And if you watch these guys do this, you would think they were in the middle of a best of 500 series. They were smooth as glass. Everything they did was perfect. Everyone else is very good too, but they were the unquestioned stars of this match, both of them. There's a million big, hot, flashy moves. There's a million tags. This is not a great tag team match. This is a great display of athletic moves. And finally, I wrote way too much about this. I'm going over trying to find the finish. There's the finish. Oh, that's right. Evans, because Jack Evans is a great heel to play off the great babyface that Kenny Omega is. There's like a train wreck spot. Everyone does a big move. Omega's left in the ring, and Jack is going to do some kind of springboard on him. But as he is in midair, the Bucks zoom in out of nowhere. Jack zooms into a triple super kick. Easy for me to say. And Omega finishes him off with a V-trigger and the one winged angel. Now, there actually was some psychology to this. There was like comebacks and heat and back and forth, but it was way more like you would see in a Lucha Libre Trios match than a traditional U.S. Tag Team Wrestling match. But it was great. I had a ball watching this match. And I want Kenny Omega versus Jack Evans. You got Dynamite every week. Surely you can put that together.
AEW Dark.
Is it on there?
No.
Oh.
But I have another show.
Well, if they do, I'll watch it.
Yes.
So great. And then as the Young Bucks are high-fiving fans at ringside, Proud and Powerful is the new name for LAX. The Proud and Powerful. They are wearing masks. They pull them off. They jump the Young Bucks, beat them up a little bit, and then Omega's right there to chase them away. That's another thing I love, by the way. And they have never deviated from this rule. The heels always run from a fair fight.
Great.
They will sucker punch these dudes, but as soon as their buddy shows up, they run for the hills.
You mean they don't beat them up with a 2-on-4 advantage?
Not overcome the odds.
Huh.
More than the point, they don't even try.
How are these baby faces over?
They don't even try. They're cowards.
Yes.
They run from the fight. We have the librarian Peter Avalon and his sidekick, the librarian Leva Bates. Which is just, they're not, let me make this clear. They're not the librarians. He's the librarian, and she is also the librarian.
They're both librarians.
No, Brian.
Oh,
I just,
see.
if you
Okay.
read the
sorry.
graphics, if you read
I'm
the graphics,
sorry, I got it.
yes, that makes it funny.
Hey, listen.
It wouldn't be otherwise.
This is a perfect usage of Peter Avalon and Leva Bates.
Amen.
Listen, I think that Peter Avalon is a good worker. When he does matches on AEW Dark on YouTube, fine, great. Dark matches, whatever. But his character, he comes out here, he's that annoying guy.
Yes.
People are booing
He's
him.
the annoying comedy
They do not
heel.
want to see the librarian. And so John Moxley comes out, and now he's Steve Austin because he beats up Peter Avalon.
Obviously, yes.
Everybody goes absolutely crazy. And then he cuts his promo about
I'll say
whatever he's... That was a tremendous promo.
it was the best.
But I need him to make up his goddamn mind.
So, yes, the obvious parallels between John Moxley and Stone Cold Steve Austin are unavoidable. But that's fine. That's fine, because mostly because Austin's not around anymore. It's not like you're ripping off the other show. So, he gets a monster reaction. Like, you can't say that WWE did nothing with Dean Ambrose, because he was WWF champion for a long time. And as I recall, I hated his title reign. But man, he's a star among stars on this show. And he's upset. His match is unsanctioned. No time limits, no countouts, no DQs. But it doesn't even count. He's going to beat Kenny Omega, Brian, and they'll pretend like it never happened. They want to treat him like a freak, like an outsider, and put him in a box so he won't cause trouble. He's the baddest and sickest son of a bitch in this game. Nobody will prove him wrong. If you think I'm out of control now, you ain't seen nothing yet. I'm going to beat Kenny Omega within an inch of his life. You're going to see wrestling violence like we haven't seen in decades. Omega's blood is on AEW's hands. Kiss my ass. Stay the hell out of my way.
Do you know that WWE had this guy and they made him a goofy comedy character?
Yes. For years. Years and years and years. This was ungodly great. This was a thing of beauty. I've said many times that I don't understand why people watch WWE main roster shows so they don't have to. But in all seriousness, how can you have watched a lot of shows these days, but this promo in particular, how can you watch this promo and ever watch a WWE promo again? I don't understand.
Well, lots of people do, Vinny.
Weird.
Less now than in decades, but they're there.
SCU versus Lucha Brothers in the tag team tournament finals. Private parties in the front row, of course they are. The Dark Order is watching backstage. They had an awesome tag team wrestling match. And I do emphasize a tag team wrestling match. The Lucha Brothers are learning how to use these tag ropes.
Yeah, but they're still
Learning, I said.
they're at 50%.
It's better than last week.
Okay, they need to be at 100%. You understand?
Well, they'll get there, Brian. It's 4 weeks into the show.
I realize that, but come on, give me a break.
There was a train wreck spot. That was a true train wreck. Frankie Kazarian fell on his head on the apron. Looked like he died.
He tried to do a Hurricane Rana off the post to the floor. There's a ring apron in the way. Apparently he's fine, but it was brutal.
Yeah.
That's 2 members of SCU that have bonked their heads on something hard over the last 3 weeks.
Yes.
Scorpio Sky better watch out.
He's the last one left. So, everyone looked great here, especially Rey Fenix, who is breathtaking with like everything he does. He's spectacular. He's magnificent. He's marvelous. He's just incredible. But in the end, the Lucha Brothers, they're in control. They hit a bunch of big moves, and they go for their package pile driver foot stomp combo. But Scorpio Sky turns the package pile driver into a small package, and Frankie Kazarian zooms in out of nowhere to wipe out Pentagon and take him out of things, or wipe out Phoenix and take him out of things. And Scorpio Sky, who originally had backed out of this tournament to allow his more experienced friends their time in the spotlight, who came in as a replacement when his partner was taken out seconds before the match in the opening round, when he had to wrestle in like one shoe and jeans because he was not prepared. In the end, he's the guy who gets the pin to win the tournament and win the belts.
Not only that, Vinny, not only that, his partner was taken out by a package pile driver on the ramp.
By this dude.
And Scorpio Sky countered his package pile driver and pinned him.
Yes, this is perfect storytelling. This is beautiful. My heart was filled with so much joy by the end of the show. Best part of my whole week.
Well, at the end of the day, I mean, it's patently obvious that AEW is the winner this week.
We mentioned last week there had been no 10-8 rounds.
Yeah.
This may have been a 10-8 round.
Well, like I said at the beginning of the show, I was watching both shows, and there was a point where I thought, you know what, NXT actually might win this week. But it didn't.
If you wanted to argue that Tyler Bate had the best wrestling match of the week, I would not argue with that.
You could probably say that.
But I as a television show, as a wrestling show, AEW just blew him out of the water.
Yeah, it's a very, very good show, and they got, I believe, one more show. I think next week is the go-home show,
Yes.
and then it's the pay-per-view.
Pretty sure that's right. Yeah.
You know what I like about this, too, is, you know who hasn't done a big-time promo for the pay-per-view yet?
Omega.
Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
Now, I would bet dollars to donuts. I don't know this, but I would bet dollars to donuts, whatever that means, that Kenny Omega cuts a promo on the go-home show. Because this is not WWE, where they've got to shoot a big angle with both guys every single week for 4 weeks before the pay-per-view. Like, every week they've been focusing on different matches, and they've shot different angles. And obviously the most important one is Jericho and Cody, so they're getting, every week, they're getting stuff.
Go ahead, I'll finish.
But not everybody is like that. Like, we haven't seen Kenny's promo yet, but we have one more week, so I presume that's when it's going to take place.
Cody and Jericho are clearly the biggest thing on the show.
Yes.
So they are pushing every show. But they're not pushing every segment. It's not overkill. They do their thing, and they are the focus for their one segment, and then we move on. The other thing I love about AEW, everything you're watching feels important. Even if it's just a women's wrestling match with one gal who you've seen one time and one you've never seen before. They gave it time. They made it entertaining. It served a purpose.
Yes, there was a point.
I, as a viewer, never feel like the company is wasting my time.
No, and even early in that women's match when there wasn't a lot of heat, there was a near fall. It was a close near fall, and the fans, like, they were furious that the referee said it was a 2 when they thought it was a 3. Mm-hmm. Like, they cared about who won and lost in a match where they didn't even know who anybody was.
Yes. So, yeah, AEW wins.
AEW
but again,
wins.
Still 2 good shows.
They were 2 very good shows.
I just loved AEW.
I was very, very happy when the night was over. It's the best night of the week. And now I got to go watch Crown Jewel.
Good luck.
We're out of time, everybody. But hey, back tomorrow with the Wrestling Observer Live. Jim Valley and Dave are going to do a show either tonight or tomorrow. Dave's very behind on the